Good evening and welcome. We're in council chambers for our monthly public planning meeting. It is 7:02. Apologies for the late start. Council, may I please have a motion to approve the agenda as has been circulated? Councillors Gartner and Thompson, all in favor, please. Opposed? That is carried. Councillors' declarations of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Seeing none. I have a statement that I read at a public planning meeting. Welcome to Aurora's public planning meeting. The purpose of this public meeting is to inform the public and obtain public input regarding the proposed zoning bylaw. No decisions will be made on the application that we are hearing tonight. The following process will occur. Town planning staff will outline the purpose of the planning application being considered. The applicant will then be given an opportunity to make a presentation and address issues raised in the staff report or public concerns which have already been filed. Following the presentations, members of the public will be invited to offer their comments or concerns respecting the proposal, and we ask you to come down to the podium here. And then once I'd like to go through the audience once for any comments, and then we try and capture all those comments, and we have either our staff or the proponent address them. Once we've heard from the members of the public, I then close that portion of the public meeting. I ask members of council if they have any questions for the proponents, and then we debate our report. It should be noted that a comprehensive report will be prepared and presented to a future general committee meeting, assessing the merits of the application before us and providing council with a recommendation for consideration. It's very important that the town receive correct names and addresses of any individuals having an interest in the planning application. Therefore, if you plan to speak to council at this meeting, or if you wish to be notified of any further council or committee meetings concerning the application being considered, we ask you to complete one of the green interested party forms that Linda's holding up and return it to Linda before you leave tonight. Under the Planning Act, the applicant or residents have a right to appeal any decision of council on a planning application to the local planning appeal tribunal. But you must verbally express any comments or concerns here tonight, or submit any comments or concerns in writing to the town prior to council adopting an amendment. The tribunal may dismiss all or part of an appeal made in respect of an application. This public meeting is being audio and video recorded. Your name, address, and comments and any other personal information are being recorded according to the Municipal Act and the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. This will help our town clerk prepare accurate minutes and to create a record that is available to the general public. It will also be on our website. Questions about this collection should be addressed to the town clerk, Town of Aurora. I will now ask the town clerk to confirm that notification to the public has occurred as required by the Planning Act. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Respecting item 1, application for zoning bylaw amendment, Starlight Investments, 145 and 147 Wellington Street West, file number ZBA-2018-01. On March 15, 2018, a notice of complete application was published in the Aurora Banner and Aurora newspapers. On May 3, 2018, a notice of public planning meeting was published in the Aurora Banner and Aurora newspapers and given by mail to all addressed property owners within a minimum of 120 meters of the subject lands. In addition, 2 notice of public planning meeting signs were posted on the subject lands fronting Wellington Street West and Murray Drive. Public notification has been provided in accordance with the Planning Act.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I will now ask our Director of Planning and Development Services to begin with the presentation. Mr. Ramuno.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Lawrence Cook, our planner, will provide a brief overview of the application, and the planning consultants, or the applicant and their consultants, are here as well. They also have a presentation to present to provide to council. I should take this opportunity just to make it official, Mr. Mayor and council. Lawrence Cook, today it's official. He's been promoted to the position of Manager of Development Planning. That's Glenn's old position, so congratulations to Lawrence, official today.
Thank you. Well, thank you all.
Okay, we're now going to hold you to a higher standard, just to let you know.
Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. The application discussion is a zoning bylaw amendment located at 145 and 147 Wellington Street West. The purpose of the amendment is to permit 64 stack rental townhouse units to reduce the required parking spaces and reduce the setback requirements The subject lands are located at the southeast corner of Wellington Street and Murray Drive. To the north of the subject land, there's a combination of single detached homes, townhouse, and moving further along Wellington towards the east, there's commercial uses. Directly east of the subject lands is a townhouse complex with Wellington Public School. To the south is another townhouse complex, and to the west is Murray Drive and Aurora High School. Currently, the subject land contains 2 apartment buildings for a total of 204 units. They were both constructed around 1975. This predates our zoning bylaw in 1978. And there's about 290 parking spaces there today. There's also an outdoor swimming pool. Now, the proposed application will be reviewed against for consistency with all applicable provincial, regional, and municipal policies as listed in this slide. And as outlined in red, the subject lands are designated stable neighborhood. The proposed stacked townhouses is permitted within the stable neighborhood designation. As outlined in red, the subject land is currently zoned second density apartment residential, RA2. The proposed RA2 exception zones will once again permit townhouse use as a permitted use. They will reduce the parking space ratio and as well as the setback requirements. This chart is a quick breakdown of what are the parking space requirements in the town zoning bylaw. Currently, breaking down the apartment units, the townhouse units, visitors, and barrier-free parking, in total, the bylaw will require 485 spaces. The proposed parking spaces in total, it's proposing 276. Now, the proposed site plan is to implement 3 townhouse blocks as shown here in brown. Each building will be 3 stories in height. Once again, they're looking to do parking lot reconfiguration. The 2 existing apartment building will remain on the site. The proposed at the moment is to remove the existing swimming pool. Now, a site plan is required. However, currently the owner has not submitted a site plan. But a quick breakdown of the units, you'll see that majority of the units in the proposed townhouses are 2s and 3 bedrooms. With also, there's options of 1 bedrooms and dens. Now, the application has been circulated and first submission has returned and forwarded to the applicant. The following are key highlights from that circulation. Staff will continue to review the compatibility and appropriateness of the proposed zoning bylaw. We want to look at the proposed density here. We also want to examine the appropriateness of the amenity area. We will obtain an urban design peer reviewer for those townhouse blocks. We would like to have a further evaluation of stormwater management practice, as well as further review of the proposed parking study that was provided, and as well as vegetation management plan here. Now, staff received a number of comments from the proposed application. In general, the public are concerned with potential damages that may occur to the newly renovated apartments, the loss of the outdoor pool and an amenity area, a lack of parking space, disagreement with the methodology of the parking study. Also, the comments received also detailed a concern about the construction management plan and if there's any future to plan for the future disruptions and make any necessary arrangements to accommodate parking during construction. And next step, staff will take the comments from tonight's discussion and provide council with a comprehensive report in a future general committee meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lawrence. For the proponent, we have Mr. Sakura. Welcome, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of committee. For the record, my name is TJ Sakura. I am a principal at Design Plan Services and a registered professional planner here as a consultant to the owners of the property. The owners, Starlight Development, is here this evening, willing to answer any questions and address any concerns of the public that may be raised. We also have tonight Stuart Elkins, is a transportation planner from Paradigm, who completed the transportation impact study and parking utilization study. So if there are any questions specifically relating to parking, we have detailed technical knowledge here to help answer those questions. I just want to emphasize that we are here to listen. We are here to gather the feedback from members of council and the public as well. The proponent is willing to make revisions to the application if they can address any comments or concerns that have been raised by council or the public. We have already had 2 public meetings with the tenants of the existing apartment buildings, and I will go into some comments that we received. They're very similar to what you saw from the planning staff report, but I will go into some additional details. So I'm not going to go through a site location and description. I think that's been very well covered by planning staff. The site is designated as stable neighborhoods in the town's official plan. It is zoned RA2 in the town zoning bylaw. So the proposal is, again, for 64 new stacked townhouse dwellings in addition to the existing apartments on the site. All of the proposed units will be rental units. All of the proposed units will be offered for rent to the tenants of the existing buildings first, and then should they not be fully rented out, they will be offered to the public. We're quite a ways away in terms of time from that happening, being offered to the public for rent. So details around that have not been finalized yet. Each of the proposed units would have rooftop amenity space. That would be located, I'm going to flip back and forth just to make it clear to council. So that would be located on the tops of the roofs of each of the blocks of buildings. 2 separate buildings are proposed. So this would be one building, and this would be the other building. One thing I'm just going to note is that the built form of this building has a, let's call it a podium parking structure. So it's partially depressed below grade, but it is partially above grade. And then there's a break in the buildings between to effectively make it look like 2 buildings, but it structurally is one structure on top of an underground parking garage. Building 2 is at the northwest corner near the intersection. The existing pool on the property is right in this location here, right where the mouse is. And I know that it's come up in the planning staff report. It did come up during our tenant meetings as something that was important to the existing tenants. We have heard them loud and clear. The owner is considering revisions to this proposal that will include the retention of the pool as it is today. That would likely result in a reduction in the number of units proposed on the site, therefore a reduction in the parking demand on the site, and those final details are being worked out right now. We wanted to come to this meeting tonight to hear what the public and council had to say, then we will consider all of those revisions after tonight. So the tenant meeting happened on April 10th. We held one meeting in each of the lobbies of the existing building, spent a couple hours with the residents in a very open and friendly setting. Most of the residents were very engaged in the development proposal. The main 3 points we heard from the residents were about existing parking on the site, the proposed parking on the site, the pool and the loss of it in that proposal, and what's going to happen during construction. As I noted, the owner will contemplate revisions to the proposal to try and address those specific concerns. Just to very briefly touch on the parking, there are 290 spaces on the site right now. In the ultimate proposal that's currently in front of council, there would be a reduction of 14 spaces from existing. So there would be a total of 276 parking spaces for 268 units on the site. The parking utilization study supports the reduction in parking and shows that the current existing utilization rate is at a peak time approximately 73%. So that means that 73% of the spaces are used in the peak times, and that was, I believe, between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. when everybody's home. And should there be any detailed questions about the methodology of that parking study, I'm sure staff and our traffic consultant can provide additional information. This is owner-built rental product. This is Starlight as an asset owner proposing to build these units on the site and maintain them and stay as a owner on the site. This is not a more typical development concept where you see a developer come in, propose units, and then build them and then leave. This is an asset manager who owns many, many assets across Ontario and Canada, and they have a vested interest in keeping the site functioning well, providing marketable units with parking adequate for the residents' needs, and providing amenities for the residents to make it a pleasant living environment that they can market effectively. The unit mix, I'm just going to briefly touch on for the new 64 units. The majority of them are 3-bedroom units, 38 of them. However, there are 2-bedroom units, 19 of them, and 1-bedroom plus den, 7. Again, that unit mix may change with potential revisions to the application to respond to any comments. The owner is proposing a high-quality residential product. This would be the the current proposal, the building closest to the corner of Wellington and Murray at the northwest corner of the site. And then this would be the building at the southeast corner of the site, closer to the school on the east and the existing townhouse development to the south. This is the building with the partially depressed parking. What you can see is this is the entrance to the parking underneath. However, the parking would be partially exposed in this area, but would be well landscaped. What this does is it provides a very efficient use of the land for parking and residential units while not having to go completely underground and provide all the safety measures that are required with a fully underground parking. This will, in essence, be open air parking under the buildings. The owner is planning upgraded finishings, stainless steel finish appliances. This is not a flip. This is not a build and leave type of proposal. Since Starlight purchased this property in May of 2014, they've invested over $4 million in capital improvements. You heard one of the comments that was received at the public meeting, and I heard this as well, was that there have been so many improvements and renovations done to the existing units that the residents were worried that construction may have a negative impact on their existing units and the existing high quality upgrades that have been done. And Starlight wants to assure them and council that if there are any impacts, which they're not proposing to have, those will be mitigated directly to any tenants who experience any problems during construction. As I mentioned, the units will be offered to the existing tenants first. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions, listen to any comments from the public and council, and answer any questions subsequent to that as well.
Thank you, Mr. Sakura. We will now open it up for members of the public for their comments. I would ask you to come down to the podium. If you could introduce yourself, give us your address. You have 5 minutes. There will be a warning tone at 4, and then the microphone does turn off after 5. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. My name is Mitch McGuire. I live at 147 Wellington Street West in apartment 212, and I'd like to present to council and to staff a petition against the planning. Of course, they've mentioned the pool, but they were in error in their number of total parking spots that are currently in place right now. Currently, between the two buildings, there are a total of 267 usable parking spots, which include 243 numbered spots that they are now assigning to tenants as of May the 15th, 11 visitor space, 8 handicap parking spots, and 5 employee designated spaces. I'm not sure where they came up with the 290. But also what they might have to address is during the winter, depending on how bad our winter is, we can lose 15 or more parking spots, mainly because they have to put the snow somewhere. And they have to push it somewhere, and it does block spots. The really bad winter, we lost over 20. Now, in their impact study and parking assessment, they mentioned 290. It's only 267. And they do say they only need 276, but right now, they could have gotten a proper number of parking spots physically required by talking to the property management, which they never did. In their parking survey, They came up with the magic number of 211, which was at 6 a.m. They did not do anything between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. People come and go after 10 and before 6, so I'm not sure. 211 does not seem right. There is over 130 parking spots required right now for 147 Wellington Street, just from me talking to the tenants and marking down how many spots they have. Multiple tenants have 2 spots. So I'm not sure where they came up with that 211. They could have just asked DMS and they would have provided an exact number required. We're all getting parking stickers. That doesn't make sense. And we've been getting parking stickers for over 10 years, so they've had an accurate count. And I know they would be willing to leave us the pool. That still doesn't fix the parking. And an initial survey of me walking around with a tape measure in our parking lot, the average size of the spaces is from 7 foot 10 feet to 8 foot 5 inches, which is well short of the required 2.7 meters. 2.7 meters is 8.8 feet. I should say 8 feet, 8 inches. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
My name's Jessie Nasseri. I live at 145 Wellington Street West in apartment 502. I'm a relatively new tenant. I've only been there a year and a half, and I moved there specifically for 2 reasons. One was the reconstruction of the existing buildings and how beautiful they made it. The area seemed safer to me, but also mainly because I have small children, and it's the only building within the area of even Aurora and Newmarket that has a pool. So my kids use it. As you can see, I brought a whole contingent of kids with me. Couldn't find a babysitter, so I had them all with me, and every single one of them wanted to come up and speak, actually, because they don't want their pool taken away. It's very important to them. It's very important to us moms in the building, but also, as it was stated, is the parking situation. I've lived in many buildings, and I've never lived in a building where the parking is so atrocious. Like it was stated, we're just receiving parking decals now, and I've been there a year and a half, and I've never had a parking decal. It's like Wild Kingdom trying to find a parking space, especially late at night. And if you're on shift work, like it was stated, we're coming and going at all hours. So it's incredibly difficult to find parking. And some of it is management issues, and some of it is just the plain location that we're at. The townhouses behind our buildings, very often they're using some of our spots. On several occasions, I've had this park out on the street. I've received 2 tickets, and I pay $60 a month for a parking space, and I'm parking on the street. When I went to complain about this and ask for the management to pay my tickets, I was told I should have parked at the high school. I pay $60 a month. I don't pay $60 a month to park at a high school. I'm a single woman on my own walking late at night into our building area, and it's pathetic that we are told to deal with the parking situation ourselves. So their whole concept of this parking plan that they put together is is nonsense, and it needs to be reviewed in greater detail. Thank you.
Thank you. Tell her to be quiet. Please don't. Just a sec. Do we have? We've got a wireless microphone. Well, if you're not on the mic, we could hear you, but we don't get it on the record.
I just wanted to say that yesterday I called TJ in regards.
Could you introduce yourself first, please?
My name is Michelle Jorgas, apartment 502 at 147 Wellington Street West.
Thank you.
I called TJ yesterday to discuss about where visitor parking would be in the new concept. Anyway, we ended up talking because currently I went down and asked for a third parking spot for our daughter who might be buying her car and was told there are no more spots available. And that's right now. All of a sudden, when I told TJ this, they called me down this morning and said they'd given me one. So they didn't exist up until I raised a stink about it with these guys. So there is not enough parking, period. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Daryl Pearsall from 18 Loring Doolittle Court. I have a few concerns. I'm curious as to what the depth of the excavation is. So, as I see it, they're limited to 3 meters. So if you go deeper than that, you need a lagging wall. So that would mean tiebacks under my house. No. So you need to maintain a 1-to-1 slope on an excavated slope. So this 1-to-1 slope, if they're nowhere near 3 meters, means they're excavating that slope basically to my fence. If they have a 3.14 meter offset, they're excavating that slope, basically undermining my fence. So, you know, when it falls in your excavation, it's your own fault and your own expense. So, what are you going to do to maintain that slope? And the whole time this structure is being built, it rains, it erodes the bank. Where's my sidewalk go? Undermined. So, what are you going to do to guarantee there's no soil erosion on my property? So, what about backfill after the construction's finished? It always settles. So, if you excavate lower than the bottom of my house, when it settles, it goes away from my house to the low spot. Are you installing monitoring wells to track this? So, this building, you know, buildings in line with the 3 meter spacing is one thing, like on a house, this on a street. They have, you know, 10 feet, sure, fine. However, this is perpendicular to mine. So I have this big, long building, the whole length of my property and more. Everybody looking out their back door, in the side windows of my house, my backyard, 3 stories up, with a nice entertainment area on the top of their roof. So, would you like my backyard, my house? I'm not amused. So, what's that do to my property value? It's in the dumps. It's basically unsaleable. I wouldn't buy it. So, very little thought has been put into anybody in my neighborhood, whether it's parking or anything. I mean, I guess you could say I'm vehemently opposed to this building. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Liliana Stefan. I'm living in 8 Loring Doolittle Court. My neighbor raised some concern. It's ridiculous, that building in our backyard, actually. The parking, it's already, we have a lot of noise for Wellington Street. It's not acoustic fence around. The backyard are very small. If they build that kind of townhouse with a parking lot, I don't know how we can live, honestly. You'll be parking in my backyard. I have backyard 5 meters, I think even 5 meters. It's a little bit grass there, a little bit green space. They took away everything. It'll be only asphalt everywhere. What about kids? What about, it's beautiful trees, they will cut it. Why? Why they have to build this townhouse in the backyard, our backyard? I don't understand. I hope somebody will do something, or somebody will come to our property and see how we live and how kind of backyard we have, how kind of noise we have, and I don't think it's normal to be like that. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Tanya Rabin. I live at 147 Wellington Street West, Unit 706. We have lived in the building almost 2 years. We moved there due to the high amenities, and I don't like washing dishes, so we have stainless steel appliances, state-of-the-art. It's wonderful. We love it. We face north, which would be exactly where the building that would remove the pool be. My view is spectacular. I live on the 7th floor. The greenery is why I chose to live there. When that building goes up, I will be looking at somebody's roof. And I am opposed to this. I don't have children, but we face the pool, and that pool should never be removed due to the amount of children that use it all day long in the summer. It is an asset to the community. And by the community, I mean Aurora and our community in the two buildings. The parking, which Mitch had discussed already, is we have 2 vehicles. Most units that I'm aware of have at least one vehicle. A lot have 2. We come home on the weekends late at night. One of us has a truck. It is very difficult to park anything larger than possibly a smart car in that lot. One, because the spots are small, and they're not always marked properly. When the lines went in, nobody cleaned the parking lot, so some of the lines are missing because it went over dirt. So that is part of the whole parking fiasco that is currently taking place. I'm just concerned that the level of comfort that we know in the buildings that we have now will be dissipated, one, with the amount of construction that's going to happen. I'm not going to be able to sit out on my balcony and enjoy my apartment as I don't want to say purchased it, as I rented it. And that is a great concern to numerous tenants in the building, that we're not going to be able to enjoy our home anymore for a period of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers?
So, my name's Mariana, and
Building 145.
and I moved in since last Christmas, and since my first summer there, I always loved swimming there. I don't want the pool taken away. That was like why I loved that apartment building. I'm not giving up this chance of being a lifeguard. I'm not giving up it. Kelly, building 145, and
Linda, could you take the microphone up to that lady at the corner? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Lynn. I live at 147 Wellington, apartment 704. And I also want to talk about if the construction does happen. I face north also, and we have a lovely view. I see the trees and the kids playing, but also the amount of noise and the dust and everything that we're going to have is just, we have now some renovations that are going on in different apartments, and it has been reported to by law because a lot of the hours, it goes beyond the time that it should. So I'm concerned that construction that might happen also. Yes, even on the weekend, there was Victoria Day, there was stuff going on. So I'm not sure as far as the bylaws what that's would entail for us too. I'd like to know those. That's and the parking. And as far as the handicap, if you are need to get in, we only have the one main entrance. There's nothing else that is accessible. So if the construction does happen, I know there will be a lot of trucks, and they're always at the front. Majority of the time we go out during the day, the ramp that's there is not, I'd say 80% of the time, it's usually blocked by either delivery or someone. I can understand if someone's moving, but they could go to the side. So for us, we have no other way to get in and out. So if all that construction happens, I don't know where we could go. And you can't park on the side streets when school is in. There's no room there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Did you get
My name is Lou Ann Timbers, and I live at 147 Wellington Street West, Suite 508. I have one major concern. I've read the scenarios of how long this is going to take, and they said it would take approximately 16 months from breaking ground until when they plan to be finished. That is, God forbid, weather is good, there's no supply delays, no contractors go on strike, things out of the norm. Where are we really going to park for, say, 2 years? 2 years. We're not talking a month, 2 weeks. I mean, you're talking years. There's no room, and the majority of the people that live in this building are old. The other half have young kids. With all that construction going around, that parking lot is so tiny already. Where do all these young kids get to go? That's all it's terrible to be uprooted and to live there for so long, and then you have to walk a mile. Where are we really and honestly can you put us? There's a school there during the day, 5 days a week. It's parked in the morning all the way down Murray Drive to almost the first the first stop sign. That's a good about a mile walk. Young legs, yes. What about the older people? Right beside us is another complex that has its own parking lot. So the next building over would be another public school. There's really nowhere to accommodate that length of time for the tenants that live in there, and it's already full, 2 suites. Where do you put all those cars? And that's really it. The winter time, the parking lot is cut again when they plow. They plow it at the back of the building where they're going to put the townhouses now and the garages, like the 2 complexes. They put the snow there. Where are they going to put the snow? They don't remove it, and they block you in front when you try to get out. They only plow going down the middle of the parking lot. They don't take the snow in front of the cars or anything. So you get a bad snowstorm like we had, and an ice storm. We had to have staff dig us out literally with shovels so we could get out. And we don't even have no construction going on yet. So that's really my concern, is I don't want to walk 2 miles to park my car and carry my groceries. So anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? Linda, could you, you're getting your exercise tonight.
Good day. Okay. I'm not used to using these. I'm used to being yelled at. Anyway, my name is Gary Wayne, 147 Wellington Street West, apartment 714. I agreed with these people here on the view, kind of on the top floor, which is incidentally the highest you could go at that time when they built those buildings. Second off, I've been in construction, been doing it for 42 years. I work with the Googlettis and the Pochies, and they've taught me over the years how to tear a childhood dreams. Now this part here, these guys are gonna go in, they're the same as us, they're in it for the profit, they're gonna come in, they're gonna scrape the ground, they're gonna dig it up, put in what they call luxury condos. What they did in 145 and 147 was put lipstick on it. They filled in the holes, painted them, put down a little bit of some tile, threw in a couple of new elevators with mirrors so you can watch yourself go up and down. And other than that, they didn't do anything. They did the same thing we do. We go in, tear the land up, build the land, and make money. That's all we do for 42 years. I don't mind. I like the money. But the point being is, 147 is not designed, or 45 was never designed for that kind of structure to be built. Yeah, there are townhouses in the back will go up against the school property. So what are you gonna do, have the kids screaming while you're at school, while you're sitting at home being sick or whatever? Taking out the pool on this side, putting in a couple, come on, get real. Wake up, look at the property, think it over. This is the town of Aurora. We've had green land for years, and nobody's been able to touch it. Now, all of a sudden, a couple guys come in with a few bucks, and we're gonna give them go ahead. Take a look, run up to my room, come up to my apartment, take a look. Right? That's what you see, miles of green. It's beautiful, fall colors. Now, where are you gonna see that, in Toronto? Come on down to Toronto, I'll show you that. Thank you.
Okay, well, I gotta wait, okay? I'll come back. You will have another opportunity. Want to make sure everybody's got an equal opportunity here. Smacked on a microphone around here. Okay, if there's no other members of the public at this point, I'm going to go to the proponents to answer some of the questions, and the main one seems to be around parking issues. I don't know which one of you gentlemen would like to address that. There's obviously, you've heard that people would like the pool to stay, and I think you've already somewhat addressed that. And then there's concern with the folks who live, the two residents who live on Loring Doolittle Court, which is right beside to the east. So if you could
thank you.
Address those.
Good evening. My name's Stu Elkins. I'm Vice President at Paradigm Transportation Solutions. We prepared a traffic impact study and a parking justification report for this site. I'm not going to dwell on the traffic at all because it doesn't appear to be an issue. And as far as the comments back from the town, there's nothing really outstanding. But with respect to the parking component of the study, town staff have asked us to do additional surveys. So we are going to be back out. We'll be doing a weekend and 2 more weekdays to, again, reaffirm our findings from the initial study. The initial study, as TJ had said earlier, we did find that there was a fair surplus. About 27% of the parking spaces on site were not utilized. And our recommendation was essentially providing 1 parking space per unit. So the 276 units proposed in total, there'd be 276 parking spaces. So the surveys that we will be doing, we will extend the time frame, again, to address the residents' concerns. Our initial parking surveys, we did 2 on weekdays back in April of last year, and they started at 6 in the morning and went till 10 a.m. And then we resumed them again at 4 in the afternoon and went till 10 p.m. The reason for that is based on a study from the Urban Land Institute. They have a significant inventory of parking studies, and they have found that beyond 10 p.m. in the evening, while there might be some ins and outs, there really isn't any additional peaking beyond that point. So we felt it not necessary. But regardless, we are, as part of the additional surveys we've been asked to do, we will be extending the time period to 2 a.m. in the morning. Okay, so we'll be surveying from 4 in the afternoon until 2 a.m. in the morning to, again, make sure that we have in fact captured the peak parking demands on the site.
Thank you. Some of the other issues, especially with construction, I presume it's not you, sir, with construction issues around Lorraine Doolittle Court, construction mitigation, that type of thing.
So I'm going to try and summarize some of the notes that I took here. Obviously, the parking is an issue. Additional surveys are being done. With regards to winter and losing parking spaces during the winter, it's an operational issue that we've heard, and that will be taken to the property manager, and hopefully they can rectify that situation. I know from our own office building, it is difficult to plow parking lots when there are vehicles in the parking lot, because you can't go underneath and beside each and every vehicle. You have to kind of do the aisles, and then when the parking spaces are empty, clear the snow from those aisles. So it does become haphazard. I mean, in a big winter storm, whether you have a parking lot for an apartment building or a parking lot in your front driveway, somehow the snow has to be moved. So that seems to be more of a management issue. We will take that back to the property managers. Parking during construction. So construction management plan has been done. Additional detail will be added to that construction management plan when we get to the site plan application and detailed stage. This application is just to deal with the zoning at this time. A lot of the details that have been raised here will be addressed through the site plan process. But with regards to the construction management plan, there's currently we're able to maintain 186 spaces throughout construction at a minimum. There will obviously be spaces used and not used, or disturbed and not disturbed during construction, but throughout the construction period, 186 spaces will be maintained for the existing 204 units on the site. With regards to Doolittle Court, I heard some issues about slope and grading. Obviously, there will be no grading or work done off of the subject property. Any grades at this property line will be matched to existing. Any stormwater flows that are existing today must either be maintained as they are or improved, as opposed to creating any adverse negative impacts on any adjacent landowners. Doolittle Court is it's a small little townhouse development. to the east of the subject property. It's quite isolated. It has its own access from Wellington Street. I can't see that that development will be affected by additional units on this property, particularly when it comes to stormwater grading and any engineering matters. In addition, if there were any negative impacts as a direct result of construction, that's always the landowner doing the construction's responsibility to fix and maintain. With regards to Michelle, who I spoke to on the phone, she made some comments about calling me and then all of a sudden they called her with a space. I just want to clarify, I did speak with Michelle, no issues whatsoever. I relayed her concerns about visitor parking to the property owners. I had no idea about assigning of spaces, or I'm not involved in that at all. Generally, spaces aren't currently, they're in the process of being assigned to units specifically, and the parking lot is in the process of being numbered. That will all be obviously improved and clarified and fixed with a site plan detail with numbered spaces and new striping and new configuration of the parking lot. We are going to investigate whether there are any other changes we can make to the existing parking lot to improve the number of spaces or improve the configuration of the existing parking. Through the site plan control process, any parking proposed will have to meet the minimum size standards for the town of Aurora. The current parking spaces may have been assigned and laid out prior to the existence of the current bylaw setting out the sizes and standards of those spaces. With regards to noise, I'm not sure if that specifically referred to construction noise. Obviously, construction has a disruptive impact on the tenants on the site and on the adjacent properties. That's something that we all live through. Even if you live in a single detached dwelling, your neighbor can engage in renovations or construction that may be disruptive to your enjoyment of your property on a temporary basis. And there are obviously town bylaws to try and mitigate any impacts of any noise during construction. With regards to the pool, I have to admit, I've been doing this for 22 years and I've never seen anybody under the age of 6 come and present at one of these public meetings, so it's actually quite a treat. I heard the 2 young ladies loud and clear. The owners have heard them loud and clear. It seems like the idea of removing the pool is most likely going to be abandoned. That pool will be maintained where it is. I think I've addressed all of the comments made, Your Worship, and I'm happy to address any others if I've missed any.
Thank you, sir. I'll go back to the members of the public first. Madam, you said you had something else you wished to add?
Do you have to say my name again?
Yes, please.
And my address?
Yeah, please.
Tanya Rabe, 706 147 Wellington Street West. I just wanted to raise a concern. I know you had mentioned, TJ, with the noise and things like that, but it's not just one neighbor that's being affected. It's 2 buildings, and I don't know how many units there are, but that's a couple hundred units that are being affected, not just one house beside me. The other thing that I wanted to bring up was TJ had mentioned the construction safety plan or safety management plan. There are 2 schools, as we all know, one on each side of this construction site. Like I said, I don't have children. My first thought when I heard this was a disaster, because the amount of children, teenagers and young children, like the ones that were up here about the pool, walking up and down Wellington Street, these big construction trucks coming and going. I fear for these children's safety. And like I said, I don't have children, so that speaks volumes for me that I am highly concerned about. And that was just what I wanted to add.
Thank you. Please.
Hi, my name is Kim Pearsall. I live at 18 Loring Doolittle Court, and my husband Daryl has already spoke. At any point during this proposal where they were meeting with the apartments, the residents from the apartments, at no point in time did they ever approach us at Loring Doolittle Court to seek our opinion or our approval or our input, anything. And furthermore, we are on the end unit that this development will completely block all of our view. We will look out all of our windows into their backyards. Our fence is 10 feet from the proposed buildings. Okay. Now, we do not have a front door. We are an end unit. Our entrance to our unit is up the side of the fence. This is a huge safety concern. It's very frustrating that no one, and I invite you to come to our property and to look at Loring Doolittle Court and to see where we are and to see what your development is going to do to our privacy, our security, our safety. And our view is destroyed. We didn't buy in here to have our property value go down the gutter. This is ridiculous.
Any other members of the public, please?
My name is Jay Jorgis. I live at 147 Wellington Street West, apartment 502, husband of Michelle. I sell cars for a living, guys, and I study human behavior. And I'll be honest with you, what do I see here? I think they only care about the building at the back of the property. And this pool thing is just so they look nice. It's a tactic, and I want that on the record because I honestly don't believe a word he's saying. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other members of the public who wish to have any comments? I will go back to Mr. Secure one more time for the, with respect to any comments from the public that you'd like to make, then I'll close this portion of the public meeting and go to council.
So just with regards to a couple of the new comments that were raised, the residents who were not approached from the abutting property, it's not our practice to go and approach those residents. If they're here tonight, we're happy to listen. We are happy to carry on that discussion after tonight. This is the statutory public meeting that everybody is aware of. We put the signs on the site. With regards to the existing tenants, it was a little bit easier for Starlight to approach the existing tenants because they own the buildings. They can go in the lobby, put up notices. We used the lobby for the public meetings with those tenants, so it was a little bit easier to facilitate those. But we are happy to hear from the abutting residents and carry on that discussion with them about impact potential to their property. Property values are going to go down the gutter. Market analysis is not a component of our development application. Market analysis on additional lands surrounding the subject land is not part of our development application in my experience in this industry. New development in areas tends to make property values go up on adjacent properties. There was a comment made about removing the pool and this being a tactic of ours to propose removal and then make us look like good guys. To give you a little bit of history, we had pre-consultation in December of 2016 with planning staff. We had some, what I would call napkin sketches of development proposals for this property. We bounced ideas off of planning staff. We got feedback from them. One of the feedback things that we received from them was to bring built form to the corner of Wellington and Murray. In our original thought process and original concepts, there was no building in that corner. The pool was proposed to remain. It was planning staff's suggestion to us to investigate that possibility of bringing built form from an urban design perspective to the corner. Therefore, in the application, we proposed the building at that corner. We have heard loud and clear that the residents do not want the pool removed. We will not be, most likely not be removing the pool. So that's all I can say about that. It was not a trick, it was not a tactic, it was not anything other than responding to feedback we received from planning staff, putting a proposal that we thought would bring additional rental accommodations to the town of Aurora in a sensitive and quality manner. And we're here to hear these comments, take them away, and adjust the proposal as necessary so that we can bring something in front of this council that is going to be a benefit and an asset to the town.
Thank you, Mr. Sakura. If there's no more, Linda, could you take the microphone back, please? No, hold on. Wait for the microphone.
I just have one question for you, sir. Hello? Hi. I got the glasses.
Sir,
Are you right? Do you listen? Okay.
sir, the way the public planning meeting works is you address council.
I'm sorry, okay.
That's okay.
Okay, all right. Gary Wayne, 147, 714 Aurora, okay? Now, the building, I'm looking at this building here, we've been building quite a few of them in the last 2 years. They seem to be the upcoming thing down in Toronto, filling in for spacers, filling in what we call spacers, okay? Fillers, as you design it. The length of the building from front to back, is it 10 feet?
We'll get you an answer, sir.
Okay, kind of, because once he puts the building up against, you have to propose the distance between the schoolyard and the proper distances. It used to be, I think it was 5 feet at one point from property lines. Okay, so if it is still that, where do they put the yard for these people that are renting the townhouses so that they can come out at nighttime and sit with their barbecue or whatever? And approximate distance between that and 147, where they're going to be building it, will I be able to open that side door to get out to my car, or is that building going to be stuck beside it within a 10-foot distance, which means it's going to eliminate every parking spot in the back of the building facing the school?
Thank you, sir. I'm not sure we can answer all those questions right now because a lot of those come up at site plan when the building is actually designed. This is conceptual.
Just curious.
You know, and those are fair questions, and we've
miniature building or
yep, and we've made a note of those. So
standard building project.
and they will go forward in a future council report. So thank you very much for bringing that up.
Thank you, sir.
Please.
My name is Luann Timbers, and I live at 147 Wellington Street West, Suite 508. I am a really long-standing tenant at this building, and since Starlight has purchased the building, they have made it look very nice from the outsides, with the whole plan that when they bought this building, they had these townhouses and everything else planned from the get-go, as these are to accommodate more money or whatever they wish. It's not for housing. I swear they bought these, they did all they have done, which took over a year, almost 7 days a week, for drilling and painting and windows being ripped out and not replaced. They put them in, they slapped them in the walls, but it's your responsibility to renovate the mess that they leave. And I know it looks very nice and very appreciative, but you cannot control the mess and the wood and the nails and the glass and the iron and the steel that they are going to use to build all these apartments, which is going to be all over the print, which is not going to be just at their end. The kids, all these children in these buildings are going to be in these sites. We're going to be blocked off and barricaded for like I say, 16 months. It says in their little book that they gave us all to read, and that's weather permitting. And I just find this has all been cosmetically done to bring in more buildings and more tenants for them to live in. They don't care about us living in there. They really don't. And I don't want to complain, but I want to be honest in the same token. We know what we went through as tenants in the last stage of repairs that we lived in. This is going to be no different and twice as long. So it's almost been like 3 years of my time here paying full rent, not being able to open my windows because I have severe allergies, and I do face where the construction is going to be, right where the pool is. So you can't, like you say, no windows. There's going to be a lot of dismay and a lot of disgruntled tenants just for something like this, which everybody thinks, or at least I do, was all planned while they purchased this building in the first place. And I really wish they would take the tenants in mind of, sure, it'll look nice when it's finished, but it'll be hell on wheels before we get there. And that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle Jorges again at 147 Wellington Street West, 502. I just wanted to tell you guys that when they came and had that meeting with us in our lobbies, they told us that it was the town of Aurora who requested more units, that they originally came in with this small block, and you guys were the one who said, no, you make it bigger. You guys were the ones who told them to get rid of the pool. That's what we were all told that meeting night. I just wanted to add that.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments. I'm going to close this portion of the public meeting. I'm now going to open up for council questions to the proponent. Mr. Sakura, probably. Council, comments for Mr. Sakura, please? Questions? Councillor Gardner.
Hello. Some of the comments that weren't responded to is about the entrance. There's only one entrance to the building, and where the building trucks are going to be parked. How are the residents going to get in and out if the trucks need to block that entrance?
So I can respond to these each individually. I'm happy to. The one that we're referring to, I believe, is the barrier-free access and I forget which number it is, but in front of the building and the main entrance to the building. So there are multiple entrances to the buildings, but there's one barrier-free access in front of the building. And residents did say during the tenant meetings that sometimes somebody blocks that ramp. That's not, I can't see how that's something that can be controlled through a development application. That is a management and operational issue on the site. That information will be taken back to the property manager to basically enforce no parking. That is illegal parking. It's not supposed to be there. It's not as if somebody's allowed to park in front of the barrier-free access.
Of course.
Right? So it's somebody parking where they're not supposed to be parking.
Are the construction trucks going to be using that entrance?
There won't be any construction in the existing buildings. The construction will be done elsewhere on the site. So I can't see how this development application will result in construction in the existing buildings. So the short answer would be no. The contractors would not be parking in front of that barrier-free access with regards to construction of these buildings.
Thank you. So we have a plan of the development on page 15. So where are the trucks going to be coming into, well, there may be two sites or there may be one. Okay, thank you. Where are the trucks going to be coming in and where are they going to be parking?
Well, they will be parking in various locations around the site during construction. The construction management plan is something that is required by the town, is prepared and submitted for staff review, and it looks at a phasing of construction, timing of construction, how materials will be delivered to the site, where they will be stored, for how long, where contractors' parking will be, and in order to maintain parking for the existing tenants during construction to the greatest extent possible.
Thank you. Are you planning to have a construction supervisor on site at all times?
Yes, there would be.
And a phone number where the tenants can reach you if there are problems?
Yes, and that construction supervisor will be also in close contact with the property manager on site.
Thank you. I seem to get the feeling that there are issues with the property manager. With respect to the snow removal, or the snow and it taking up parking spots, could that snow be removed from the site?
That's a possibility, and that's something we will consider. Again, that's more of an operational issue, but we will take that back to the management company. And again, Starlight, the owner, is here. They've heard that, and they will see if they can address that through a contractor who takes care of the snow removal.
Thank you. Who is the owner?
Starlight Developments.
No, who are they here?
Mark Chimie is here.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. And the last question for now is the question about the family at 18 Lauren Doolittle. He has the fear that there is going to be excavation very near or under his house.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, and if I can get the mouse, so the Lauren Doolittle development would be in this area right here.
Yes.
So the closest excavation would be the north end of this building. And I do not know the proximity from this building to their existing house, but there obviously would be a setback from the building to the property line, and there would be no excavation crossing that property line. We can't change the grades or affect the grades at the property line.
Thank you. You did say that before. The diagram that I have, it's just the one that staff has provided. It looks to me like this house is very, very close to the property line.
Yeah,
This is not a site plan application, though, so it's not going to be to scale with respect to that. It's a zoning application.
I'm sorry, you can't talk from the, that portion is closed, sorry.
The air photo on the screen can maybe, I know it's not zoomed in, but it can show a little bit of detail as to where these dwellings are in proximity to the existing apartment buildings. So they would be these residences here and these residences here that would be concerned with the excavation. The new building would probably be starting somewhere where the mouse is right here. Again, it's pretty small scale to be showing you that level of detail.
Thank you, but of course you would be concerned about your neighbor's comfort as well. The neighbor's comfort as well.
Cover?
Comfort.
Oh, comfort, absolutely, yes. Yeah.
Okay, so they'll have your phone number as well, or the site supervisor's phone
I was
numbers.
happy to, I handed out my card at the tenant meeting, and I was happy to take any and all phone calls from any of the residents who had any questions.
Thank you, and it is unusual that meetings are held with residents before a developer actually comes to council. So I thank you for that part. I think the rest of my comments are for the council meeting. Thanks.
Thank you.
Councillor Thompson. Just to the presentation, please.
Thank you. I just want to confirm some of the numbers you presented. How many total parking spaces do exist today, according to your calculations?
So I am taking my calculations. As a planner, I rely on the technical expertise of our traffic engineer. They provided a report that shows existing 290 existing parking spaces.
And based on the study you conducted, you said that only 73% are being utilized at peak.
That's what the surveys revealed, yes, during peak time.
And then you also said, as part of your construction management plan, you estimate that there'll be 186 spaces for 204 units. Was that what you said?
Yes.
So if I do the math, 73% of the 290 is 211 units. You're only providing 186. Where are the other 25 cars going to go?
That was during construction, during a worst case scenario of everything being under construction at the same time, which would be scheduled.
And your math being right. So my question is, where are those 25 cars going to go?
They would have to park off-site or not have cars on the site during that period of construction.
But there's no parking around there. if there's no overnight parking, there's no public parking, so I'm just curious. I think there needs to be some more planning around that parking deficit.
Okay, so we will investigate further in the construction management plan how we can accommodate one parking space per every unit during construction.
Thank you.
Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for coming tonight. And just let me do some positive comments first, and then I've got some, the crowds, I understand how everyone's feeling right now. So I love what you've done as a property owner to the building. So, from the outside looking in, looks beautiful. And I have to say, thank you, because that does make a big difference, and I hope there's a lot of pride of ownership there, because I love going by, I watch the progress, and I think, awesome, But on the other hand, I'm really concerned about the parking during construction and after, and I'm wondering, are we being too ambitious to put 2 complexes on the property? Would the owner reconsider and perhaps reduce to 1 building and put it in an area where it's least impactful? Because really, you have a parking issue. You've heard it from the tenants. There's going to be more parking challenges when these buildings get placed there. And during construction, it's really critical to figure out what you're going to do, right? So for me, I would love to if the developer would go back and look at the configuration and see, can we reduce the scope? I just feel like we're being ambitious in this area. It could be just me, but that's sort of how I feel. Beautiful, beautiful townhouses. Love the look of them. I really do, and I think it'll enhance the property. But if we're going to try to shove them in there, I think even the new people going into those, or existing tenants going into those homes, will be disappointed in the long run. So take another look at that if you're willing to, because I think reducing the scope will eliminate your parking challenges or lessen them to the extent they are. I mean, you got a problem today, so I think really have to work at some sort of a solution that'll really help the existing parking. Thank you for keeping the pool. That's really cool. And I'll take it at face that you actually were never going to remove it anyway. Town suggested that to you because of the configuration of the scope of the plan, and I appreciate you listening to the children and the residents, because it's lovely to have a pool. I remember doing that as a kid and loving every minute. The other thing that, and there's a point, it's always going to be tough during construction. Noise, dirt, inconvenience, it's really difficult. So if you add that with an existing parking issue, it's really going to be ugly. So I would love for you guys to consider looking at the scope, reducing the scope, trying to see if you can make some parking adjustments that maybe will really at least keep it the way it is today, so that everyone has a parking spot when they go home at night while construction is going on at night, during the development. And other than that, and thank you for going back to doing the parking survey again during those hours. I think that's really great, because I think you'll probably see some different results and maybe support the efforts of perhaps looking at parking differently. And one last thing, just the neighbors on Doolittle Court. Like, let's take a real look at the impact to that residence, that court, because that would be devastating for the owners. We have enough going on in town that have made residents really unhappy. Anything you can do to make sure that there's a fair distance from that court, if you're looking at configuration on the property, would be amazing, because you have happy people beside you, and you'll have a beautiful complex townhouses coming up around, so you just enhance your property. So that's just my feedback to you. I know staff's going to be willing to talk to you guys and work with you guys, and just to the neighbors, I know this may not sound great because you've probably never gone through this before, but having a developer speak to you guys before they come here is really amazing. We usually have the first communication here, and all the residents are all like devastated. So I'm just being open and honest. It's great that you've met with them before, and continue to work with the developer, because they'll listen. They're good people. You've done a great job for our community. So I know you want to do this for the right reason. We need more rental units, more affordable rental units. We need them in town. So I like that you want to do this. It's just take maybe another crack at it. We'd really appreciate it. So that's all.
Councillor Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you very much. And I want to thank all the residents for coming out. I know we have busy lives, and it's not always easy to get here. So my thoughts are very similar to Councillor Humphreys. I think it's great what you've done on the outside. We don't have people constructing rental units in town. In fact, this would be the most significant rental project. We really do need them. Having said that, we have heard loud and clear about stable neighborhoods, and we are doing something about that, although this is a little different build than the stable neighborhoods. It's very important that the impact on neighboring buildings don't affect already established homeowners, and that was spoken by Councillor Humphreys about Doolittle Court. We normally say, I know you didn't consult with them beforehand, but you did give notice within 125 meter that was read before. So, our stable neighborhood is about what they call monster homes being adjacent to another property owner. And that's very important. We're very serious about it. So I think you know that this council or certain members were very concerned about that as we go along. So I take the comments from Doolittle Court with a great deal of impact on, and I understand exactly what they're talking about. The parking is a big challenge. Putting in these rental units are a big challenge. I really like that you're bringing in rental units. I like your consultation. I like what you've done to the outside so far. So I'm looking forward to seeing some changes in the site plan application before I proceed with my vote to approve.
Thank you, Councillor Abel. Councillor Kim, any comments with respect to the presentation?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Dahl. Through you to Mr. Sakura, I echo the same sentiments as my fellow councillors on the pros and cons of the development. And with any development, there's always criticism, and hopefully constructive. On behalf of the residents of Doolittle, I mean, I can totally appreciate their concerns, because I would certainly share those concerns. Has it ever been considered to have some form of buffer, whether it be mature trees or something to kind of buffer the planned development against the backdrop of the existing residents on Doolittle?
Mr. Segura?
So we have not gotten to that stage yet of detailed design, but I would be very, very surprised if there was not going to be some type of buffer planting landscape plan to enhance the visual separation between this site and the existing residents on Doolittle. So a landscape plan absolutely will be part of the site plan process, but I will keep that in mind even as we're looking at the current application.
Okay. And if you could, consider not just the aesthetics, but also the privacy value, and I can totally appreciate that, certainly as a builder, you're not obligated to do something like that, but I think it'd be appreciative as neighbors to have some kind of a privacy buffer, as well as something aesthetic. If that could be considered, that'd be great. Parking was often mentioned, and so the new plan has 14 fewer parking lots, parking spaces in the end. Given the option, some of the or most of the new parking for the townhouses are going to be subsurface. Has there been any plans or suggestions to have more subsurface parking to kind of alleviate some of the surface level parking concerns?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, with any reconsideration of the plan, we will absolutely look at trying to maximize the amount of subsurface parking. We're calling it depressed parking. We will try and get more of it. It was a little bit of an issue with the grading at the northwest corner of the site, but we will definitely investigate whether that's possible in greater numbers.
Yeah, I mean, having faced 14 some odd years of trying to catch the GO train station, wondering whether I'll get parking or not, to have to wonder whether when I go home whether I'm going to have a parking spot or not. I can't fathom the amount of stress that puts on families and individuals when they come home. So I think that would be a great olive branch for the builder to reach out in such a way. And my last comment would be, if the owner would consider, we talked about, the hazards of construction. One of the residents talked about safety, and certainly there are safety guidelines and bylaws in place. And construction, there's construction is all over. That's just a common complaint. And I know living in a newer part of town, we had to suffer through construction as well, and that's par for the course, unfortunately. But have you considered, instead of having two areas of townhouses, given that there's two high-density buildings anyway, to have just one location and have higher density, in terms of whether it be profitability or other metrics? I'm sure there are other ways to meet those guidelines.
It's a good question, and it's apropos of a couple of the comments that the public made. In the initial napkin concept sketches that we had, there was only one building with more number of units in the southeast corner of the site. And again, through consultation with staff, it was suggested that we explore breaking up that number of units into two different places on the site, thus the concept that we showed you with the building at the northwest corner. On our initial concepts, that building at the northwest corner didn't exist at all, and there was more density at the southeast corner. So it's a balancing act of trying to achieve a viable project with something that's going to be sensitive to the existing tenants, sensitive to the existing residences that abut the property. So that was one of the thoughts that was put to paper. We will explore that once again, have further discussions with staff as well.
Yeah, and if that was discussed, I hope that maybe in the next round to have maybe two options, and maybe in a public meeting, maybe have share some of those ideas to adjacent residents as well as those in the existing two buildings, and to see what is the better option. But I applaud you guys for we've seen a lot of builders out here, and it seems like you guys are flexible and adaptable, and we thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Just one quick question for me, and then we'll close this portion and go to the council report. Is parking assigned? Couldn't think of the word there for a minute. So, I'm in apartment 712 and I've got space 23.
Right. It is in the process of being assigned. A program was started last summer to assign parking spaces. However, there was issues with the numbering on the spaces, like the physical striping. So that was, I think, redone in the spring, and that program has reinitiated to assign spaces to residents. All residents were asked to register their vehicles with the property management company. Not all residents have done so, so that is part of the process that's ongoing right now. And if this development were to proceed forward in the fullness of time, yes, parking spaces would be assigned.
I think to Councillor Thompson's point, assigned spots would also, I think, help council make a decision. So appreciate that.
Fair comment, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to close this portion of the public meeting as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Secura. It's nothing like a summer's evening grilling. Council, oh, come on, you got to have a little fun. If someone would please put the report on the floor for me. Councillor Thompson.
Mayor Dawes, since the proponents already said that they're going to work on a revised proposal, I would suggest that it comes back to a future planning meeting rather than go with the recommendation from the staff to go to a GC meeting.
So, Councillor Humphreys the second, he started to come back to a future public planning meeting as opposed to a future GC.
Yes.
Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded therefore by Councillor Humphreys. Comments or questions, Council? Oh, good. Board's lighting up like a Christmas tree. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Parking. Mr. Ramuno, in our report on page 6, it talks about parking spaces requirements. So under the current RA2 zoning, are they required to have 1.5 spaces per dwelling under the current zoning?
Sir.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that's correct. That is our existing zoning parking provision for apartment and townhome units, 1.5. This building, obviously, it doesn't appear that it complies because it predates our bylaw.
For sure. So what would be the expectation under the zoning for visitor parking as well, or would that be included in the 1.5?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that's correct. It's always part of the 1.5 rate.
So, I guess it reinforces the concern that currently they're not in compliance with our standards for zoning, and then moving forward, they want to reduce parking and increase spaces, which creates a greater gap. From my calculations, if we stick to the RA zoning of 1.5 units, and you see the listing of 306 spaces for the apartment units, 96 more for the stacked townhomes, and so forth, you get up to 485 spaces. They only are advocating 276. Which is 57%. That's a significant reduction from our standards to what's being proposed. And so I certainly think that, the challenge will be for you to work with the proponents in trying to address that parking issue. Even at one unit, plus visitor, plus barrier free, they're going to be challenged to meet our standards. And so I'll leave that with you. I think all the other comments from the residents are very valid. I think that they've been noted in the report, and plus the additional ones from the adjacent property owners. And I think that's why it needs to come back to a public planning meeting so that staff can work with the proponent, revise the application, send notice out to everybody, have them come back, and so solicit their comments on a revised proposal at a future meeting, because it's certainly not ready to go forward at this point.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, and I agree completely with Councillor Thompson, and I do thank the residents for coming out. We don't often have a chamber filled with so many residents, and I'm sorry that there are so many concerns. Hopefully, by coming back to another public planning meeting, it means that the developer will look at the proposal, will have listened to your comments, and will bring us something that will be more in keeping with what you'd like and with what council would like to see. And I also have to say, I've been sitting on council for a long time. This council is so great at public planning meetings. You really listen to the residents, you listen to the developer, you really try and find the solution. So I thank you all, and I hope that we will find a solution that is fair to everyone. I do have one comment, and it concerns the parking, in that these residents are in place and they're used to being able to have 2 spots per unit. So I don't know what the solution is, but I don't think that in a way they're grandfathered. I don't think we can say to them, well, we're going to do a new development, or in addition to the development, you have to give up one of your parking spaces. I've actually never seen anything like this happen, and I don't think there's any fairness in that. Thank you.
Councillor Humphries.
Thank you, through Mr. Mayor. And, it's been said by Councillor Gardner, Councillor Thompson, so I agree, and all the comments have been amalgamated. It is a really big challenge, that the building is grandfathered and not to the current standards, so I'm not surprised there's this current issue right now for parking. So it's quite serious, and if there's some creative way that staff and the developer can figure out something to help alleviate and relieve parking, that would be great. But everything's been said, so next planning meeting, hopefully we'll have some great information to share with the residents. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One comment and one question to Mr. Ramuno. And I think the one comment, and that's to the owner and developer, is that I've always found this area to be, the center part of Aurora is pretty, just not just geographically center, but it's really kind of the heart of Aurora, and it's representative of what Aurora is all about. And and I do hope that you listen to all the comments that's been made, because from my understanding, you've been a pretty good owner thus far, and I think what increases an asset is, it's already mentioned, parking. When you have increased parking, you have great aesthetics, you have harmony and homogeneous relationships with adjacent neighbors. Those are the things that bring value to a property, and new tenants and existing tenants will value that. So I think those are the things that need to be heard. And through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Rumuno, we've heard that the planner, Mr. Sakura, said that it was our suggestion, our planning department's suggestion, to have two separate builds on the site. And can you kind of give us some highlights as to why that suggestion was made as opposed to one concentrated?
Mr. Rumuno.
Certainly, through you, Mr. Mayor. No, I am aware that our former manager did meet with the applicant, I guess back in 2016, just to have some preliminary discussions, and he may have made that suggestion about reducing the density of the one block and splitting it up to try and orientate one of the blocks closer to Wellington Street. But based on the comments, we'll certainly go back and we'll see what the applicant comes forward with, and reevaluate the plans. And maybe another option to accommodate the additional units in one block. So it's something that I think the applicant is willing to explore, and we'll certainly work with them in the review of the application or the options that they bring back.
Councillor?
From a public planning perspective, is there one design over another that makes more sense than the other, or is it just a matter of having various stakeholders approve one or the other?
Mr. Romano.
So, Mr. Mayor, no, I think there, merits in. There's merit in the proposal in front of us with respect to providing a different type of built form, and not a 6-7-story building, a 3-story stacked townhouse, which does fill a need, some larger units. As opposed to perhaps trying to incorporate another block of, a mid-rise building. So, as we heard, even the applicant mentioned, there are, it's a balancing act, so there would be some trade-off there with respect to either one larger block or two smaller blocks. It's really a question of how to incorporate them into the current design. And the biggest concern that we've heard that they need to manage is the parking because of the deficit on site currently. So. We'll work with them. I'm sure they're going to explore a number of different options, and we'll come back to council perhaps with more than one option.
Great. Thank you very much.
Councillor Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With regard to the parking, I might suggest, I've seen it worked in condo units, that if you want extra parking, there's a site surcharge, and for those that don't require parking, there's a bit of a benefit. It might give a bit of a handle to the residents in those apartments. So if people aren't using or don't have a car, they would make that, then that's not required for that unit. It might be a way of documenting it. I don't want to suggest that they get a reduced rent, and certainly I'm not suggesting that you put a rent up for those that do have a car, but it would be a way to kind of pool what's going on. And I see a lot of shaking heads, so maybe it's not a great idea. But the other thing is accessibility. Mr. Rumuno, as this is a new build, I hope that this will come forward through the accessibility committee, because some people did mention that there was blocking and things like that, and the advisory committee has a good handle. And so when they're at before building stage, we might have suggestions. They might say, oh, well, we know that that's easily accommodated, rather than do it and then say, after the fact. So that's a normal procedure that will come before the accessibility committee. We'd like to see sort of where the spaces are, the ramps, and if any suggestions we have with all the new buildings that we have, we oversee those. So that's my comment, my ask.
Thank you, Councillor Abel. Mr. Ramon, just a couple of, do we have, when we determine criteria for parking, do we have a specific size, as in width and depth?
To you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we do. Our bylaw does provide a minimum width and depth for a parking stall, and an exterior parking stall, I think it's 2.7 by, and Lawrence can correct me, I don't have the bylaw in front of me, but a minimum of 2.4 or 2.7 by 5.4 or 5 depth.
I'm not querying what it is. We do have it. I think in the next report that comes back, I think it would be good to mention what that is so that we can have that information at our fingertips. Also, when the report comes back, could you look at, because I should know the answer and I don't, is Wellington considered a corridor, a transit corridor, which speaks to a different built form, which is why Mr. Letman may have suggested a different format for the building, which partly drives density.
To you, Mr. Mayor, it's not a regional corridor, but it is, a regional road, and it is a transit corridor. So that may have been one of the reasons why he made that suggestion.
And last but not least, and this is a general comment, and Councillor Abel indirectly addressed it, which is the cost of parking in any kind of building. And if you were to look at condos in downtown Toronto, you'll pay $40,000 to $60,000 for a parking space, for an underground parking space, which is where they build them. And they're actually building units that do not have parking, period. And the parking garage, the Go parking garage, as an example, was about $35,000 a space to build. So I think and this is not necessarily pertinent to this discussion, but I think in the back, as we're doing this thinking, parking adds a substantial cost to the units that's going in. One of the stated goals of this council has been to provide affordable housing. So maybe there is, as we move forward in some of these debates, and certainly would appreciate input from residents on this one, is so it comes with one spot or whatever that is, and if there's an extra spot, is there a value to that? So I think as we look at it, and like I say, not necessarily applicable to this, but I think it would be beneficial to me anyway, certainly to have some of that input from residents as to how they feel that way. Whether, if you're taking the Go, can you take the transit over to the Go station, assuming it's convenient and all the other kind of stuff. So just as we go through that process, any thoughts you have next time we come back to a public planning meeting would be beneficial. Thank you very much. Seeing no other questions, I will call the vote then, using your tablets, please. And this will be coming back to another public planning meeting. Yep. So if we could have our voters, please. Councillor, though she left? Okay. Okay, we're all in? Okay. That's passes unanimously, so this will be coming back to another public planning meeting. Thank you very much for coming out. If you do wish to be kept informed, please get one of the sheets from Linda. Actually, I think there's a box out there in the lobby. Fill those in. Please return them to Linda, and we'll make sure that you are on the list. Thank you very much for coming out. Appreciate your interest and appreciate your concern.
Thank you.
Confirm by law. Councillor Abel, thank you. Councillor Thompson, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Motion to adjourn, Humphrey, Kim. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.